how we say this at Pirate is, I think, is R, right? That's the right keyword, no? Normally I would like scream it out loud, like R. That's the keyword of Pirate. So I'm really happy to be here today in Cologne to host the Future of Events track. I prepared a presentation to sort of give you a hint of our own story in this crazy year and a half. I called it Sailing the Perfect Storm. It's really like a story of resilience and grit and passion. I think it fits very well for a lot of entrepreneurs who are attending Pirate Live today. So personally, I love events a lot, and the real ones, like the ones that are actually in person, right? Not really this sort of bullshit of online, remote, virtual events. That's not really my type of thing. I believe that digital experiences are not really events. And they call me boomer because of that. I have a definition, sorry, it's a bit long, but I've been using it for a long time. What I consider events are these temporary social organizations, such as conferences, trade shows, or festivals, that assemble diverse members of an organizational field in a bounded time and space to exchange information or coordinate activities. And the key word here is really the space one, because that part, we can't replicate it online yet. So what's the future of events? And why do we care? I personally have been kind of under the spotlight performing since a very young age, and this is me doing probably my first public appearance. Move forward 2010, I'm doing this show in Berlin, and again, that's probably one of the main reasons why I really enjoy the sweat of live events and this sort of like passion that you only get when you're physically on a stage. That got me to work at Midem, the biggest sort of music trade show, where I went out to convince people like will.i.am to come and speak at the event that I was organizing, or getting our stars of the stage in Cannes with Rita Ora. That type of thing, again, was part of the story that got me to work with large events and work with speakers. And going further, I ended up working with a lot of events, but like this one, for example, is a series of photos that I got from Brilliant Minds in Stockholm, like basically either inviting those speakers or curating their participation, and that is something that I've been doing for kind of more than 10 years already. And I'm like, yeah, wow, this is something that I didn't get with online events. I don't really have that many selfies on my phone because of the online events that I have to attend in the last year and a half. We've been discussing this already quite a lot. I had a very interesting conversation with Manuel from Pirate kind of a few months ago, and I was saying that from my point of view, in their current form, remote events are a threat to entrepreneurship, and I still hold this statement. At our company, we believe entrepreneurs can change the world if they attend the right event at the right time. That's something that was key to our mission from like 2015, and we built several things to make it happen. The concept being that tech events are kind of a category of business events, so it's not like any type of events. There is a lot of other events that don't have the same sort of rules. But when it comes to business events, you have this sort of channel between network and knowledge that is empowered by the trust that attendees have in each other. That's where we sort of start working in with Startup Sesame and started to see this vibe, this community energy, because of gathering around 50 times a year with a lot of people from the community. We ended up having this concept of proud to be a Sesame, and that's where we come from. We were particularly interested in helping founders navigate the space and understand what events will be good for them, because the growth of the number of events before COVID was really insane, and you really didn't know what was the ROI that you could get out of it. That was kind of our specialty, this area. And that got even crazier because of the rise of virtual events. Like, the amount of events is just insane, ROI very questionable. And people would tell me, yeah, well, you can attend them from your couch. I'm like, yeah, sorry, but if you're attending this from your couch, it's not really business. They tell me, oh, online is more accessible. I'm not sure I really want to get, people at a business events who are not really the one that I want to meet. Like, this barrier of entry is still something that makes sense in a lot of context. And they will also tell me that the industry needed a reboot. I totally agree with that. There was a lot of bad events, bad conferences or trade shows. There was even events that were scam. But the way the industry got this reboot wasn't really the way it was planned, and I ended up having basically random networking. That was the solution that was offered for the past year and a half. The point being, events are hard. They are hard for everybody involved, for the organizers, for the participants, for the exhibitors. It's really a tough business. It is hard for everyone. And one of the craziest part of this is that even if you are very good at it, you still rely on what people say about you. Like the biggest driver of attendance at an event is word of mouth, like 80%. And people just basically, it's a very social thing. People trust each other to go to the right place, to the right event, and even online is still applicable. This is a thread that I got from Patty Cosgrave from Web Summit back in 2016. I really like to show it, because here you can see an attendee that is saying that Web Summit was the best thing ever back in 2013. And then 2015, he's saying that it's a scam, talking about the 2014 edition that he didn't even attend. That's basically your life as an event organizer. It's really a tough one. What we were doing back then, again, pre-COVID thing, we're supporting tech events with a network. We had this event acceleration program for startups, like basically selecting a batch of startup every year to get them access to the right events for them. We were making money with the turnkey solutions for corporations, like helping them with startup scouting in the case of traditional trade shows, helping corporations organize their schedule during big events like Slush, and also helping people like put together internal events when they had money. And one thing that we did, we were like so excited about it, was building our own community app so that throughout the year you could continue brokering and like interacting with each other. I'm going to show you an image of the app. Less clicks, more handshakes. Perfect timing. February 2020 is supposed to launch this in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress. The less handshakes part, the more handshakes part, I hope you notice it, because that wasn't really a good thing to have anymore, right? Like that started to be just prohibited. That hit us very strongly. We really went through, like, as many people in this industry, a lot of pain. And people were talking about like a Napster moment. Really feel it was this way. Like the industry needed to digitalize itself. It wasn't really happening because it was against its own interest to do it. It's always more profitable to just sell square meters than to turn your business model upside down, like the music industry finally did, after a few years of streaming. And you end up having today what I believe is the biggest sort of competition between a digital platform like Hopin and the main tech event here in Europe, Web Summit. So basically, these are the key leaders. They are capturing a lot of value of the industry, which makes a lot of sense because moving online has this impact in terms of like consolidating businesses and creating those winner-takes-it-all type of effect. For events organizers, it was really insane to see what Hopin was doing because basically, in case you don't know it, I'm sure you know it already if you're watching this online event, it's the leading online event platform nowadays, and it's valued at more than 5.6 billion, so more than Revolut. And for event organizers, it was like crazy to see this happening. And it was all facilitated by the lockdown. It's really like what happened around the valuation of those platforms was kind of something pretty strange, and that happened just once in a lifetime, like a perfect storm. For us, it was even tougher, if I may say, because we're neither a startup nor an agency, so we couldn't sort of surf the wave of online events because we would have a perfectly crafted product. We didn't have it. It wasn't ready. But we're not really an agency either, so we couldn't just say, oh, wow, we'll go all in with virtual event production. We couldn't do that. So it was a tough one. Basically, sales go down. We almost sort of die, right? Good thing is that we are not event organizers ourselves, so we could still pivot, still reinvent ourselves. I'm going to tell you a bit more about what we did. Basically, we focused on a series of problems and tried to see which solutions we could bring in a sort of simple, efficient way. And the first one we did was talking to event organizers, and we've been doing a series of weekly coffees for a year, like 45 of them every Tuesday, and event organizers will come together to discuss their issues, learn from each other, talk about like new platforms they were testing, try to avoid the mistakes that others had made already. And that was one of the first things that we did. Now today, this community is still active on pro.sesamers.com. Another thing that we did in a year ago, just like we're going to be a year old very soon, is launching Selected by Sesamers, which is basically an online publication and newsletter where we curate the best events from our understanding understanding for entrepreneurs and investors. That reached a bit more than 1,000 members, and it got us into a very interesting area we were not really good at, which is basically content production, SEO. This is driving a few thousands organic visitors a week. So pretty good experiment, if I could say, and bringing value to the industry. Another thing that we did in the spring of 2021 was inviting our community to organize a weekly event called Sésame on Tour, where we put the ecosystem of their space under the spotlight. We did 12 events over 3 months. It was short events, mostly focused on content, like really giving away learnings and like inspiring founders to know about what was going on in different locations throughout the world, like mostly in Europe, but in other locations as well. And one interesting takeaway is that we got roughly 500,000 total reach online with this, without building a lot of like complex platforms. So you can see that this is, of course, super interesting when you're doing online events if you're looking into the content space and not so much into the business side that is still quite a very hot thing to crack. And the last part, and I'm going to start to talk about what we have for today in a minute, is well, no, I have this one too. This one actually we haven't launched yet. I'm really happy to say it here at Pirate. I'm pretty sure people in the audience will love this. Basically, we have this experiment which is called Hybrid and Chill, and it's CBD for event organizers. I'm not kidding. You go to hybridandchill.com, give us your email, and claim your flask. You know, we're going to see who's going to get it. I'm not kidding. It's a real thing. But we haven't announced it yet. I'm doing this here today for the first time. The other thing I have, and this is the one that we spend more time on, is really Sésame.com. So basically, the goal here is to create a platform that would enable tech attendees, like tech event attendees, to schedule more and better meetings. It's kind of the area that we were dedicating ourselves in the past and still trying to solve it today. And you can already go there again, Sésame.com, if you want to register. We'll keep you posted when we're launching in October. Let's get to the topic of today, future of events track here at Pirate Live. Thank you for having us. I'm really happy to be here in Cologne to host this track and to introduce you to our amazing speakers. We have first session about the future of exhibitions with Kai Hattendorf. I think it will help us understand what are events and maybe question some of the statements I made earlier. Later on, we're going to be talking with event organizers about the learnings, the tips, and the pitfalls that you have to avoid when you're running your own online events, and also how startups kind of come into play when you're doing online events, and is it good for entrepreneurs to offer these type of events, again, like following up on what I was discussing earlier. Another session will be also with event organizers, and we're going to be talking about the mission-driven events. So basically, how events can be a platform for change, for social change, and like fight for noble causes like climate change, diversity, or the refugee crisis, for example. We couldn't speak about the future of events without asking those who are building the technology behind the future of events. And I have two CEOs of some of the greatest technology platforms joining us later today to talk about the hyper growth that they went through, because they got super, super fast and scaled super fast over the past year and a half. Great learnings for entrepreneurs in the room, so make sure to join us for this session at 3 p.m. And the last one for this track will be an interview with the Chief Programming Officer of South by Southwest, an event that, per definition, in my understanding, cannot be replicated online. And we're going to see what Hugh thinks about it and what are his plans and learnings from the past year and a half as well. That's it for today. I'm going to get started very soon, but I just want to remind you that you can go ahead and ask questions in the chat. I'm going to tag them throughout the different interviews and panels that I'm having. You can also visit our digital booth. We have some of our friends and colleagues who are there ready to answer your question. If you want to learn more about what we do, if you want to partner with us, if you want to work with us, just go ahead. And thank you, Pirate, for setting this up for us. And the last thing I want to say is you go to Sésame.com again, if you haven't done it yet, and go ahead and register. That's all. This is my phone number, my email. Follow me on Twitter, Ben Costantini. I love to share some memes, give some tips, and share speaking opportunities. That was my intro for today. Now I'm going to call our first speaker to talk about the future of exhibitions. He's the Managing Director and CEO of UFI, Kai Hattendorf.